Think if you offered any of the newly promoted teams from League One this year, Cardiff, Bolton, or Lincoln, a 10th place finish in the Championship, you wouldn't have an arm left. And yet, for Birmingham last season, it ended up feeling almost like a slight disappointment given the hype around their arrival and the money that's being spent, the new stadium, Knighthead, Tom Brady, all the teeth, all the Americans, all the passion, all the optimism. It ended up feeling like a bit of a failure finishing 10th for Birmingham last year. And yet, for a newly promoted team, and given what Birmingham used to do in the Championship before they went down the first time, 10th is pretty good. So, Matt, who joins us again, our regular Birmingham fan, where did you land on last season? Is success, failure, disappointment, happy? What was your overriding emotion in the end?
It's for an absolute cop out, probably somewhere in the middle come the end of the season. So obviously early doors, we've done the summer transfer window at the time looked pretty good. I think when we first spoke about it, there was still business to be done. Um, I don't think the recruitment was as positive as we all thought at the time. There was a lot of people buzzing about it, including myself. The lack of sort of championship experience, or you know, players that are a little bit more physical and will be more adept to playing in the championship, we lacked that considerably. So it was that was definitely an issue, and they tried to make up for it in January with some sort of more physical, pacier players, etc. But again, they were coming from abroad, so they had to have time to bed in. Ultimately, like at the start of it, if you'd said the season before, when we got promoted from League One with the points record, everyone was talking about us doing the Ipswich and doing a double promotion. I think half of the fan base believed that, half of the fan base were a little bit more realistic. I would flip between the two, very fickle like that, I think. And I think the guys that I do the podcast with, I think they predicted us to finish top two. I think I said like fifth or sixth, which we weren't far off in the end. But given the circumstances, and as you've quite rightly said, then our previous experience, our last 10 previous experiences in the Championship, 10th place isn't so bad. I think you can look back at certain games where we could have picked up points and probably would have finished in the playoffs. Ultimately, it was our away form that killed us. At home, I think we had the second or third best record in the league. Away from home, just diabolical. I think we started off trying to play possession-based football, and it doesn't work against every single team. And especially, we don't move the ball quick enough a lot of the time, which I think you probably saw when we played your place. We became a little bit more effective when we moved the ball quick and went a little bit more direct, or tried to mix it up a bit. And they did that towards the end of the season, granted, when pretty much the playoffs were out of reach, but it looked like Davies had learned that actually we're going to have a few different strings to our bow if we're going to try and progress in the Championship. He seemed pretty happy with 10th place finish. Whether or not that was just a bit of lip service, I don't know. I know the ownership and the board weren't as happy about that, and they wanted us to be in with a shout of it. So, but obviously, a lot of the fan base expected us to go straight up, and they've all pointed the finger at Davies. Some pointed their finger at Craig Gardner, who stepped down now, as we're on the hunt for another director of football, which I think is sorted. We're just waiting to get clarification on that. But yeah, it was a bit of a mismatch. A bit of a mixed bag. Sorry, home form brilliant, away form not so good, and there's a lot of missed opportunities throughout the season.
Has Chris Davis burnt off? It was certainly getting aggy at St Andrews by the time we got there. I think you were on a run of like 5, 6, 7 games without a win. We, of course, turned up and treated you to one. We're always good like that. But it was certainly a sort of, it wasn't the pumping like party atmosphere of the opening game, which I think was against Ipswich. As Chris David, like he's quite a prickly character, isn't he? And his football can be quite difficult to watch at times. I'm just not a fan of that sort of Russell Martin possession rainbowing around football. Has he burned off like credit with Blues fans? I've got in the preview at the moment. He probably needs a fast start this year.
Yeah, which if you look at our opening 7 or 8 fixtures is going to be it's going to be difficult. But yeah, I think there's a portion of the fan base, people I'm close to, that would be quite happy to see him go. Um, you still see people online saying we won't do anything with him in place. I think people forget like he's a young manager. This is only going to be his third um, season in full head coach management role. He's obviously had various coaching roles at different clubs, at big clubs. He's still learning, and I think that's what we need to realize. I think what a lot of people need to realize. He's a very, very good coach. There are questions around his man management, and he's fallen out of a few players, and they've been shipped off. Um, he's learning on the job, and whether or not, I mean, Knighthead took a big risk when they took him on. So when we were in League One, obviously we got promoted on with record points total, and everyone will say, "Well, yeah, you spent X amount of money, and you'd absolutely expect to win the league." But changing the culture of the club compared to what it had been like for years previous, and completely ripping up the style of play into this more progressive, like possession based stuff. Like we'd never seen anything like that at Birmingham before. So in the Championship, and so in League One, it was quite nice to watch. Um, Championship less so. So I think if you're being realistic, the work he's done in the background and the stuff that he's actually achieved whilst he's been here is actually like night and day compared to anyone we've had previously. So for me, he's still got credit in the bank. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. He needs a good start, and that is going to be difficult, I think.
It's been a lower key summer for Birmingham so far. So I want to ask you, like Tom Wagner, who is the tub thumping head of this Nighthead group, not the only one involved, but he is like the figurehead, the blue suit,
Yeah.
the shiny teeth. He's not been very well. Some of our listeners will not be aware of that. And as you say, the director of football has gone, and you don't have anyone in place yet for the summer transfer window. And it looks to me like it has been a lower key, sort of slower transfer window for Birmingham. So could you just sort of touch on sort of all of that and what business has been done and what needs to be done, I guess?
Yeah, so firstly with Tom Wagner, he's currently recovering from a stroke. He's in rehab at the moment. I think he's making progress, which is good. I know he's in contact with the board leadership team at Birmingham. So all things being well, like he'll make I mean, you never know of a stroke, do you? But hopefully he'll make a good recovery and he'll be back at St Andrews at some point. A lot of people forget that he runs multiple different, or he's got his hands in pies of multiple different huge companies globally. That we aren't his only company that he's involved with. So we will see him at some point, I'm sure. Has it had a knock-on effect with the way things have been over the summer with Blues? Potentially. Craig Gardner stepped down from the director of football role. He said he stepped down. That's what we believe he stepped down. So there's been a lot
It
of
was a good
question.
perhaps help down the step.
It's potentially may have been. I mean, he was very close to Knighthead. He actually played a part in getting Knighthead into the club and taking the club off of the previous regime. So he's held in quite high regard by them anyway. So my understanding is they did ask him to stick around, maybe in a different role, but he hasn't stopped being involved in football since basically he was an academy kid at Aston Villa. He's went straight from playing into coaching into different sporting director's role, technical director role, director of football role. So I think the gist is he was just tired and he just wanted a break for a while. If he wanted a job back at Birmingham, I'm sure they'd probably sort something out for him. But as it stands now, people are panicking about the director of football role. But as you'll know yourself, the targets for this season would have already been drawn up by the recruitment team, the data analysis team. They would have known who they were going after. We do have people at the club who have some form of experience in director of football roles, which you'll know one of them yourself. I'm sure you've got some jokes about him, but Mike Rigg is still at the club. He's the head of our academy, but he was involved early days with some of the recruitment stuff we've done. We are very close to making an appointment that we believe, not an exclusive, but we think it's Paul Mitchell, who was at Spurs, Monaco, Southampton, Newcastle more recently. I think there's been a lot of negotiating going on there because, from my point of view, that'd be quite a coup. He feels like that would be a bit of a statement, director of football. But we don't, as it stands, we've got head of recruitment, um, we've got head of recruitment for the first team, and we've got people in the club that can help negotiate deals, etc. So it may have slowed things down a little bit. I think the World Cup's probably had a bit of a impact on it as well, because obviously you're waiting for Premier League teams and some of the teams around Europe for their players to come back, who's fit, who's not, what they want to do with these players, who are they going to loan out, etc. So we've signed 5 players. John Solis, who was there last season, James Beadle, who was there last season, um, Christopher Lund, who's a left back, he's replaced Kai Wagner, no relation. He's gone back to the MLS for family purposes. We've signed Louis Vasquez from Anderlecht. He's a centre forward that doesn't score goals, so that's good.
Big bastard though, right? He's a
Yeah, so
big
some,
nasty RG.
someone that can hold the ball up, that will run endlessly, or that will bring other people into play. Someone that we actually need, someone that's going to be, will bully defenders down the other end of the pitch. I'm forgetting somebody.
I've
I
got it.
can't think. I'm forgetting someone, but
Dale Fry.
Dale Fry, yes, of course. So he was the first one that came through. So championship experience. If we can get 25, 30 games out of him a season, which I don't think he's done for the last 8 seasons, then obviously very, very good defender at this level.
And a partner for Clara, right? Who's great, but the people you partnered him with last year, Jack Robinson and was it Panzer and people like not a
Panzer, yeah. So Phil Neumann was the one that he was most effective with.
yeah, not a conspicuous successful partnership there because he's brilliant, right? Clara, I think he's great.
He's excellent. He maybe lacks a little bit of pace, which is obviously a problem with Dale Fry as well. He's not the quickest, but he is blood and thunder, and he will put his body on the line for you, a lot like Clara. Clara is not particularly quick, but probably quicker than people think. Neumann grew into the season. We got him from Germany. He's very, very quick. I think he didn't really cope with the physicality of the league particularly well at first. Had a good game against Ipswich, then sort of dropped off and was. The problem was Chris Davies kept chopping and changing. I think he wanted this balance of a left footer next to Clara, and ultimately the left footers didn't really work, as you say, Jack Robinson, Panzo, etc. So, yeah, there's still business to do in this window. I think we will look at a 10 type, probably a left winger, probably a centre midfielder. We might see something before the weekend for the Swansea game, potentially. So we'll see. There's some rumours that we're after Joe Geldhart from Leeds, but he is on an absolute wedge.
Yeah.
And Leeds want rid of him. He's not been part of their training camp. He hasn't been involved in friendlies. So he will go. But it's just who's going to give him the right deal and give Leeds the right deal, I think. But yeah, we'll have a few players go as well because we're a little bit, the squad's a little bit inflated now. But I say, it's sort of been a slow summer, but the squad is coming together. And I think by the time we play Sheffield United, I would expect to see another couple of players in at least. And by the time the window closes, I think we'll have done our business.
Playoffs go down to 8th this year. As we know, will Birmingham be in them? How do you think this season is going to go? Head on the block?
I think they have to be. I think based on the business we've done so far, then you look at the business that Borough are doing, and you obviously look at Wolves and West Ham, and the money that certainly West Ham have got to spend as well. And it's hard to see past them as being up there. Burnley, I don't know how much they've done. Burnley seem to. I don't even. Do Burnley even have a manager yet?
They've spent all summer looking for one. I don't even think they know the guy that they've appointed. But yeah,
I,
I'm actually not as sold on any of the relegated teams this year. But I
not
agree with you on Middlesbrough. They with every passing day of writing these season previews, they are ascending up my list of predictions. Middlesbrough.
yeah, they look like they're doing some really good business. And I like the way they play. I like their manager as well. So um, I think they'll do pretty well. But yeah, given that the playoffs are now expanded, um, I think we've got a good chance of the playoffs. I'd be pretty confident saying as long as we get a centre midfielder that can challenge Paik, that can work alongside John Solis, and we've got a left winger who we think will be Ibrahim Osman again. He did very well on loan with us last season. We've tried to buy him, but I think we're just too far apart in valuations. I think he'll come back on loan, maybe of an obligation if we were to go up. And then if we sign Joe Gelhardt or someone close to that, a goal scorer number 10 that can challenge Jay Stansfield, or displace Jay Stansfield even, then I think we'll be in a pretty good spot.
Fingers crossed for you, Matt. Always good to chat blues with you. Wish you the best of luck for the season, apart from the usual two occasions. The first of which is on Saturday, October the 17th at St Andrews. I think we will have a pretty good indication of how both Rangers and Blues are going to do this season by then. But for now, we'll catch up in October. And thank you for your time as always, mate.
Well, thank you, mate.